there and welcome to Euronews, to this special show all about the environment and nature. For this, we're here in Paris at the Louis Vuitton Foundation and we're with CDP. That's the non-profit that runs the World Environmental Reporting System. Because according to their new report, only 5% of companies in Europe are putting plans in place to reach the 1.5-degree goal. So on this special programme, you can catch a glimpse of the CDP Awards 2023, which is essentially all about celebrating companies and cities paving the way. On the front line, of course, local authorities doing their best to transform Europe's cities. So first, let's hear from some mayors and hear what the challenges are.
Investors take a look which kind of cities they want to invest, and if the city wants to invest in the future together with the businesses, that's a great deal. And for the citizens, you have to, of course, think about how and why that is good for them as well. It's about cleaner air, it's about better transportation, it's about, in our case, a cleaner harbour and our archipelago. So when you put the words in the right you have to speak with the same language. If you're just dealing with issues on the high level, then you maybe not connect with the other people so well. But you are quite close. In the cities, you are really close to your residents. You have accountability, and then you have the words to discuss why this is important.
A grande dificuldade neste momento é que quando nós olhamos para as necessidades dos nossos cidadãos, eu falei hoje, expliquei que 13% da população do Porto vive em habitação social. Nós estamos a fazer um grande investimento na habitação social para que ela seja mais sustentável do ponto de vista ambiental e temos-lo feito através da substituição de janelas, de coberturas e tudo mais. Queremos que esses edifícios sejam edifícios que produzam energia, mas aquilo que eu estava a explicar é que esses nossos habitantes, num primeiro momento, vão querer consumir mais energia, porque o que é que eles vão querer? Se a energia é mais barata, então eles vão querer ter mais energia para aquecer a casa durante o inverno. Até que nós depois consigamos entrar numa fase de estabilização da produção de energia, que não nos exija mais energia. E isso vai ser todo um trabalho muito difícil, principalmente quando nós queremos atingir a neutralidade carbónica em 2030. Como é que o vamos conseguir? Mobilizando o setor privado. Mobilizando o setor privado, as pessoas têm casa própria, dando-lhes benefícios fiscais para o caso deles adotarem medidas de substituição dos combustíveis que utilizam para aquecer as suas casas e para a energia que têm as suas casas. Aquilo que estamos a fazer no transporte público, também com recurso ao PRR, estamos a fazer uma mudança muito grande relativamente a essa matéria, e depois aquilo que também temos em mente e temos prometido e nós temos cumprido sempre as metas, que é duplicar a área verde na cidade do Porto nos próximos 10 anos. Se nós conseguirmos fazer isso, é sustentável fazer esta mudança. E nós acreditamos que as cidades que façam a mudança mais depressa, isto vai ser menos penoso para as cidades, vai ser uma oportunidade. Eu tentava explicar aqui que as cidades, isto é um pouco como ao dentista, as cidades que forem primeiro ao dentista vão ter menos dores de dentes do que as cidades que fizerem isto no fim, e todos vamos ter que o fazer.
Now, the CDP Awards is all about ranking top marks for all those who are actively implementing the COP15 biodiversity deal that was clinched in Montreal, Canada last year. We can take now a listen to some of those companies.
El mundo, el ecosistema empresarial se divide en, digamos, tres, con mucho solape, pero tres. Aquellos que hacemos por convicción este cambio de modelo y descarbonización, aquellos que además lo hacemos porque es una oportunidad, y aquellos que no creen que sea una oportunidad y además no tienen la convicción. Para todo ese segmento que no cree en ello y que además no cree que hay una oportunidad, pues si queremos que el cambio se produzca, yo personalmente estoy convencido de que debe producirse, entonces no queda más remedio que la regulación. Y la regulación nos resultará a todos difícil de cumplir, lógicamente, porque las regulaciones normalmente son restrictivas y difíciles de cumplir, pero aquellos que estemos más preparados y más avanzados tendremos una ventaja que pagará los esfuerzos de muchos años.
Je parlerai moins d'économie verte que d'économie circulaire, c'est-à-dire celle qui va faire en sorte que les produits soient éco-conçus, c'est-à-dire qu'ils utilisent par exemple des fibres recyclées ou des matériaux innovants, L'économie circulaire, ça veut dire aussi faire en sorte que nos produits qui durent et qui se transmettent de génération en génération, eh bien, on leur donne un surcroît de seconde vie grâce à des services de réparation qui permettent de les utiliser pendant très longtemps. Et puis la circularité, ça veut dire également faire renaître ces produits de manière différente. On a ainsi créé Nona Source, qui est une plateforme de revente de tissus qui ne servent pas dans un certain nombre de maisons et qui sont donc revendus à d'autres ou à l'externe à des jeunes designers qui n'auraient pas pu accéder à ces tissus de qualité au prix du marché. Voilà, donc comment peut-on limiter l'empreinte environnementale de nos produits grâce à cette circularité créative, on appelle cela ainsi chez LVMH, parce que au fond les designers partent de matériaux qui par définition sont respectueux de la nature pour créer quelque chose et du coup casser les codes classiques de la beauté pour faire en sorte que le sustainable soit désirable.
L'Oréal travaille, comme beaucoup d'industries, déjà depuis des années et des années, de façon extrêmement engagée sur les matières premières, sur les packaging, sur les CO2 emissions, avec des résultats déjà extrêmement tangibles, ce qui a fait qu'on a eu le triple A de la part de CDP. Donc si j'ai un nouveau rêve pour 2023, c'est d'engager l'entièreté de l'écosystème de la tech avec nous, parce qu'on est dans cette nouvelle ère du digital, et que désormais, les émissions de CO2, la water scarcity, elle est reliée également aux problématiques de cette digitalisation du monde et qu'il faut, de la même manière que pour les matières premières, aussi sérieusement que pour le packaging, aussi sérieusement que pour la trajectoire moins 1,5 degré, tout ce qui est autour de la tech et de l'IT soit transformé avec les géants de la tech pour qu'on arrive à avoir une vraie trajectoire avec eux. C'est important pour L'Oréal, mais c'est important pour le monde entier.
We have a statement, we finance change and we change finance. So on both topics, I do hope to inspire my colleagues in the financial industry in the Netherlands and in Europe to follow our example of being net zero in 2035 on lending activities and on investment activities. And secondly, in terms of finance change, last year we introduced the bio-based mortgage, where we give a discount to clients who build their houses with natural-based products and components. And I would also invite my competitors in other countries and in the Netherlands to follow that example and to also stimulate and reward clients who do the right thing for biodiversity and climate.
As the EU Green Deal becomes a reality, cities and companies will have to adhere to a number of national and European policies over the next few years and decades. ESMA is the European markets regulator. Do they have any advice for them?
Greenwashing is a risk, particularly when we look at the outcome that investors get at the end of the day. So from our perspective as the European Securities and Markets Authority, it is all about making sure that there is sufficient information, transparency about what actually is being sold to the retail investor, so that the retail investor can make his or her choices on how to support sustainable investment goals and make sure that the information is properly displayed and is fair.
For the EU Commissioner responsible for justice, all these EU rules and regulations will be a game changer for the planet. He's working more and more with his colleague, the EU Climate Chief, Frans Timmermans. EU Commissioner Reinders, welcome to the CDP Europe Awards 2023. Thank you so much for being with us. First question. Can you tell us exactly what the Directive on Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence will oblige companies to do in terms of the 1.5 transition plan? Do you think it's a game changer?
It's a game changer because, like you said, we are going to a mandatory approach. So till now it was possible to work on a voluntary approach on the basis of some UN guidelines or OECD guidelines for environment, for human rights, also in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Now, for the large companies, we will ask to come with a transition plan to explain what they are doing to reach the same goals than the Paris Agreement. And of course, for the directors, it will be important to take on board the new definition of the interest of the company in the interest of the company, you have a sort of possible negative impact of your operations on the environment. So it's a real game changer, and I'm hoping that we'll have the support of the Parliament, but also of the Council to do that.
Time will tell. And should corporate governance, you think, address nature with the same approach and the same rigour as they do climate? In other words, can biodiversity transition planning remain voluntary action?
Of course, it's very important to go further than the actual, again, voluntary approach. And I thank CDP for such an action about this kind of process. But now what we will ask is to apply all the international conventions signed and ratified by the European Union. Think about biodiversity. There are some conventions, and now it's very important to ask the company to take care of it. So we are doing that with a due diligence process. So we will ask the companies to analyze and to assess the possible negative impacts of their operations on the biodiversity, but not only the operation of the company itself, but of all the supply chain and the value chain. That's very important, to go very far in the value chain, the entire value chain, in fact.
And which global impacts do you think can be expected from the EU's new perspective on the duty of care of directors?
But to be concrete, like the GDPR, we try to come with global standards. So we start, of course, with such a level playing field in Europe for all the European companies, for companies from third countries working on the internal market. Also, we ask to all the companies, I said, in the supply chain, the value chain, to take care of the environment, the biodiversity, and so it will be also sometimes very far from Europe. But more than that, we are hoping that it will be possible with first like-minded countries to go in the same direction. We have seen with the GDPR about data protection that it was possible on the 5 continents to have evolutions in the same direction. I'm hoping that it will be the same here.
Just one final question, Commissioner. How do European demands on companies compare to what's going on in other places, like the United States, for example, where we know the IRA will balloon green investment from companies? The question is, will EU laws make EU companies more competitive or less?
Yes, because we need to take everybody on board. So, of course, there are some actions and possible actions by the member states or by the European Union. I'm thinking about some state aids, if it's needed to help companies to go to such a goal for climate. It's the same at the EU level. It's possible maybe to come with a new funding from the European Union to support the member states that don't have the capacity to give state aid to their companies. And then, of course, with the due diligence process that we organize, we try also to ask the companies what they are open to do by themselves. And so it's a real combination of the different actions. But it's true that we need not only to react to the Inflation Reduction Act, we need also to act at the European level to be sure that we are going in the same direction about the climate change.
Commissioner Reynders, thank you so much, and thanks for being with us here on the CDP Awards 2023.
My pleasure.
A big talking point here, disappointment around COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, with some here saying they might just skip COP28 in Dubai.
COP15 was way more encouraging than COP27. There's few things that we shouldn't ignore that happened, and when we talk about disclosure, there was from Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of UN, who came out with this new standard to stop net zero empty promises, which I think is pretty interesting for companies or to look at how it is. But I think the moment, you know, we need to stop finger pointing to everyone else. Companies need to stop saying we need the legal framework to move, legal framework to say we need the companies to move. We just don't have time. So we all need to move together. And the choice we made in Holcim is say we move, and hopefully that will pass on the right messages to the government, and that will help creating that movement.
Okay, it's time to move, not time to talk. Eric, briefly from you.
You know, we have every 5-year sustainability plan. We call that Brighter Lives, Better World. It's far beyond climate change. And, you know, at the end of 2020, we reached carbon neutrality, Scope 1, Scope 2, and a bit of Scope 3. It was a 11-year journey. And now the new target is to reach the Paris Agreement target, according to science-based targets, but not in 2030, in 2025, taking as a baseline 2019, opening to the full Scope 3, which is 90% of our full emissions. So at the end of the day, that's what we do. You ask us to be honest, so I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to COPs anymore. You know, I've done it, and it was not driving the right level of energy for me, so I'm not going anymore.
Okay, I see. José Manuel?
Well, I'm going to leave with an optimistic view here. I have been personally at it since 1994 when I inaugurated my first wind plant. And I've been seeing, I wasn't CEO then, but I was kind of moving. I've been seeing the curve go this way, very flat, very, very slow growth. I think we're reaching the vertical side of the S-curve. I think things are going this way. And so there is going to be a change in speed of change, a great increase, multiplication of the speed of change in the next few years. And I could go on about which are the factors most affecting, but I think we don't have time. Let's leave it there. There are very clear signs that the S-curve is starting to very quickly pick up onto the verticality.
Okay, so it's a real paradigm shift. The view from Esma?
I think if I look back to COP last year, for me, one of the most important things there from a financial sector point of view was the work of the International Sustainability Standards Board and the fact that you actually now have global sustainability reporting standards. And if you talk about transparency, disclosure, that is so essential to have something that is genuinely creating some comparability across the globe. So I'm glass half full. Hopefully that will be adopted globally as a standard and will help all of us to move forward. And I think it has to be genuinely a joint effort between the private sector and the public sector. We don't have time to sit back and let this gradually happen. We need to move together and learn together. And it's a steep learning curve for all of us, but I hope we can continue on the road that we are.
Okay, and the final word there with the Mayor of Porto.
Well, I'm not as optimistic because I think we have been concentrating on tackling the problem from the supply side and not from the demand side. And the big changes in the world have been done through the demand side. If I stayed at the Boulevard Saint-Germain overnight, and when I looked at the cost of a croissant and the cost of a T-shirt produced in Indonesia, the croissant produced locally is more expensive. Why? Because the public is still not aware, and there is no indication of awareness of what the impact of everything that he consumes or that she consumes has on the environment. We buy a bottle, we take a bottle, and there is here probably the big description of what the contents are. But we don't know how much does it cost in terms of our planet, in terms of our resources that are not renewable. And I think that effort has not been made. We have, again, been concentrating on tackling the things always from the supply side. But when you look at the big changes, and the Portuguese were involved in some of the big changes with globalization, it was always demand that changed it. So I think COP is very disappointing in those terms. It doesn't concentrate on the demand side.
With my foundation, we are working since 5 years to identify more than 1,500 solutions that can protect the environment in a profitable way. We work like hell for that. We try to promote it. I give speeches about it. I give interviews about it. And still there are people who don't know about it.
Yeah.
But I have an incident with my balloon being pulled on the road by a gust of wind, and the entire world knows it.
There it worked. It worked.
And this I cannot understand. When you make little things like that, everybody notices, but you make really deep and important things, people are not aware of it.
Because it's human. It's a human fact. Like John Glenn falling in his bathtub. Remember that? Yeah. The same thing, right? He's human. And so is the earth, is a living thing that we have to take care of. But there's also
you say
an opportunity business-wise, right?
Yeah, but you say the earth is a living thing, we have to listen to it. But as an explorer, if I come back from flying around the world in a solar-powered airplane and I say the earth is beautiful, it's a living creature, we have to protect it, everybody will applaud and nobody will do anything. Because it's not the language that the people want to hear.
Right.
If you speak to business people or political people, don't say the earth is beautiful. say that the protection of the environment is economically profitable and creates jobs. And then you are heard. And this is what I really learned with my first training as a medical doctor and a psychiatrist. You have to adapt your language to the people you want to convince. And in that sense, you need to change the narrative. For far too long, we heard that protection of the environment was boring, expensive, threatening our lifestyle, threatening our comfort, our mobility, our economical growth. And nobody wanted to hear that, and nobody wanted to enter in the logic of protecting the environment.
Right.
And today we have more CO2, more pollution, less biodiversity than we had 50 years ago at the beginning of the ecological movement. So it shows that it doesn't work. And today I think we have to change completely the narrative. Like in a balloon, you know, you change altitude to take another direction. And for this, you drop the ballast to get more height.
Yeah.
And I think we have to get rid of this narrative that doesn't work and say the opposite.
Right.
Protection of the environment is exciting, it is profitable, it creates jobs, it can bring everybody together. And then the world of economy, the world of industry, of finance, and politics can finally enter into it and do something.
And that's what CDP is all about, is bringing together investors, governments, businesses to do that. How have you managed to do that with your foundation?
I participate in all the last climate conferences. And I noticed that the thing that doesn't work is the fact that you have 196 countries around the table. They put all the problems on the table, and they're fighting to know how to solve them. And each one is thinking, if I do something for climate, it's detrimental for my economical growth, it's detrimental for the population, I'm not going to be re-elected. And I think people hate problems. What you need to do is to put solutions on the table, and not problems. Solutions. And then you distribute the solutions among the people who need them. And every country needs another type of solution, depending on its economical development, its policy, its geographic location, and so on. And then you just look, all the solutions, which one goes for who? Where does it match? Where is it relevant? And once you've done that, this is exciting because you speak of solutions.
Right.
And because all these solutions are today, thanks God, economically profitable, once the countries know which solutions to use, it's easy to get the investment for it because it's not a cost anymore, it's an investment.
We can take a glimpse at the behind the scenes of the CDP Awards ceremony, where the motto has been transform the norm.
This is the A-list of cities.
This is the A-list of cities.
Okay, and we call them up.
Athens, the city of Badum, Braga, Mannheim, Oslo, Porto, Tampere, Trondheim, Turku, and Vitória-Gasteiz.
So now we move from the City Hall to the boardrooms to honor the A-list of companies. The world is waiting.
Well, I have the pleasure of announcing the AAAs. I'm happy to announce Beiersdorf, Danone, Firmenich, Lenzing, L'Oreal, and we also have LVMH, Metzabord, Philip Morris, Symrise, and UPM Kimina. Congratulations, AAAs. We're gonna get in here, right between the 5 and the 7. Woo! Bravo indeed. Partners, we're going to one at a time, right here. Congratulations. We look forward to celebrating you on the number 6. Congratulations, LVMH, I believe on your first ever AAA! Say it with me, everybody.
Transform the norm.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Well, that's it for this special programme that was coming to you from the Louis Vuitton Foundation here in Paris. Thank you so much for your company. We'll see you very soon on Euronews and Euronews.com.